Hello and welcome back to another Pinnacle preview. Today we're going to look at Group C, joined by the same guests as previous episodes, Nato, AZR, Dennis, Hawka, lovely faces we all like to see here. And today's a big one because all the Oceanic teams are clumped into the same group, and we've got AZR here today. So I just want to talk about the way they qualify. It's a 3-team bracket. The team that didn't go from there is a team called Hello Kitten. And we realized last time that AZR loves his quirky names. Humongous resides on that team. So there's another one to throw into the mix. Not quite bro, but humongous.
Yep.
And I just wanted to ask about Grayhound. Are they currently the best team in the Oceania region? And are the 5 players on that team the best that we can get from that region?
Oh, okay. So definitely Greyhound would be the best team in the region for sure. They've been the top dogs now for a while. So ever since like even before Corona happened, they've been the top dogs in the Oceanic region, I would say. But when it comes to the best 5, I don't know, to be honest. The thing is, I don't know too much about the Aussies at this current time, to be honest. Also, like, I mean, are we talking about if like you could slot JKS in there or something like that,
If you
or
wanted to
what do you
slot
mean?
JKS in, you could. If you want to put yourself in
I
there,
mean, for
go for
sure. I
it.
mean, I mean, for sure, you could slot Justin in, like for sure. I mean, he's definitely the best player right now out of the Oceanic region, like by a mile, without a doubt, right? So you could definitely put him in there. If any point in time that he didn't want to be in G2 and the slot opened up for him, I'm sure anyone would give up their spot for him. So yeah, for sure. But with regards to like the players in the team, like I think they have a decent team, but I think the thing that holds them back the most is the mental side of things. I think that's been a big thing for Aussies in the past for sure. And like because I know what some of these guys are capable of. Like I was a teammate of Liaz for like three years, and the guy's a gun. Like the guy mechanically, he's amazing. But I think it just depends on how and on the day how he deals with the pressure. So yeah, a bit up and down with Aussies, but I mean, they've had a few showings now where they sort of show something and they come to the next tournament and they're pretty lackluster, I would say. So yeah, I'm hoping they can do something good, and I really believe in I think Vexite and Alistair, they'd be like the 2 like main winning components of the team, because when those 2 pop off, it seems like that's when they become their most lethal, I would say.
And do you think that it's a situation where they should do similar to what happened with Renegades, where they imported talent like you had NAF come in and you had the likes of JKM? Do you think that's something that the Aussie scene should be looking to do more, or is that difficult because funding?
I think it's just difficult because they're located in Australia, right? Like, I mean, it was easy for us to get imports back then because, I mean, we lived in America. So you could get people from Europe. You had other North Americans. Like, it was a lot easier. But the situation there, and like, I'm not fully sure about the situation if they want to play in Europe or anything like that. But just being in Australia is like they're obviously isolated. So it's always going to be hard. So, yeah.
And the first game that they have, they play against Vitality, who are the current title holders of EPL. So it's going to be an extremely tough game there. But luckily for them, what they can look at is Vitality are playing with a stand-in with JACKZ. So do you think that this is going to be good for Greyhound to try and exploit? And is there anyone else that you would have suggested for Vitality to have as a stand-in, or do you think that JACKZ is their best case scenario here?
So I think I think he just slots him pretty easy as a stand-in, like just himself as being like the go happy French guy coming into the team. I think he'll slot in easily, and I think they'll do well with him. I can't really think of anyone else, to be honest, especially when you got the Frenchies on the team like Apex and ZywOo. So I think that's an easy slot in. But I think yeah, for now this is probably Greyhound's probably best chance to try do decent overseas, whereas like the whole group is filled with stand-ins. You got Vitality with stand-in, and they actually had where was it? I think it might have been at Rio where they had the decent showing against Vitality. Like they actually took some good rounds off them. Didn't get the W, but they did some damage. So hopefully this time around they can actually do something.
Yeah. I low-key think there's a chance for them here, because I remember at the major, I'm pretty sure they also played a really close map against Cloud9 early on. Like Cloud9
yeah,
were
that's
not
true, yeah.
looking their best, but that was like a super close BO1.
Was that the
And then
Inferno
I also
game?
remember,
Was that the Inferno game where Shiro had like one
That
of the
was
best
Dust
CT
2.
performances
Dust
I've
2,
ever
yeah,
seen?
yeah, I think it was Dust 2
Dust
because I
2,
think,
okay.
yeah, but still Shiro had to like carry
Yeah.
hard in like so many of those early games. That was tough.
As he
But
does, as he
I
does.
yeah, literally. But I remember them also, I think it was Cologne 2021. I was actually really impressed when they played against OG because I casted that game and they clearly just outcalled OG the entire game on Inferno, I think it was. Like they've actually got pretty decent structure and pretty decent team play. So I feel like as I was saying, like if the mental side can come through for Grayhound, I genuinely think there's upsets to be had in this group. I'm actually feeling low key like they might do something here.
I'm gonna be the exact opposite and say I think Vitality are going to perform better with JACKZ than they are going to like they have been doing recently with dupreeh.
Ooh.
And the reason I say that
Spicy.
is, yeah, I mean, I say it. I think dupreeh is the superior player, but there is something like missing in Vitality, and I think sometimes what you just need is like a breath of fresh air. You know, like you need a situation to change somehow if you've been grinding away with the same 5 guys for the last 6 months without like any too crazy or consistent results. You know, I think JACKZ is going to come in with so much good energy as well, which I know dupreeh also brings. But I just have a feeling that I don't know. It's going to be like people are able to play a little bit more loose and they feel maybe a little bit less pressure. I think it's possible they're going to do poorly at the beginning, but I think actually they're going to have a good tournament, Vitality. And I think personally that the Grayhound that we have right now, even though I think I agree with you, Aaron, that there are a few players that are quite good on the team, I think Australian Counter-Strike is the worst it has been in a really, really long time. Like we definitely need like the AZR and the JACKZ and so on. Like I think they have some good players, but I think in terms of where they are right now, they are at the lowest point we've seen Australian Counter-Strike in a long time.
Do you think they're going to struggle initially into this? Do you think that because dupreeh is going to be taking out and he's come into the team with Magisk, do you think that that's now slotting JACKZ in? It's going to be a struggle for them to like start this tournament. Is that what you're saying, Nato?
No, I think just more so that, you know, I think the players of Vitality, they were expecting more with the players they have. And I think sometimes what you just need is like a change. You don't necessarily need a better player to come in, but just the fact that now someone comes in as a stand-in, like we've seen it with some teams, that it's almost like they play better, you know, because you get to play
Less
a little bit more loose. Yeah, less pressure. And also the star players, they maybe realize they need to do more, you know, like, and I think someone like ZywOo, the only thing I've ever seen negatively about him in like the press, let's call it, is like, I remember a couple of majors where Apex has said that after they go 0-2 down or something, he goes to ZywOo and he says, bro, I need you, like step up, you know. And then they go on and like win a bunch of matches. But I think this is one of those things where I think dupreeh, again, I want to really stress the fact that I think he's the superior player over JACKZ, but I think JACKZ is very capable, and I know he's a really nice guy to play with. So I think he will facilitate the other players to do better. And I think as a stand-in, typically that's the best thing you can do, you know. So I could see, honestly, Vitality having really good performances in this, but it might be a slow start, is what I'm saying.
And that could benefit Grayhound, right?
It could, yeah. It could. Yeah.
But like, yeah, I agree with what you say. I believe JACKZ is gonna bring a lot of energy, and they're gonna play more loose, and yeah, I think they're gonna play better as well. Definitely, they have a lot of pressure. Like they need to, and with a stand-in, all that pressure is gone basically.
The thing I'm interested in is I feel like the longest time I've been waiting for ZywOo, because I love ZywOo because he almost feels like he's like a kid who just shows up and plays Counter-Strike and enjoys it and has fun. And he's like, I don't think he realizes how good he is almost. Like he doesn't realize sometimes that he needs to be the guy that says, all right, fuck this. I need to win a round for the team. Like I would love this tournament to be one of those, because I think I've seen it occasionally in the past. But I feel like he could do it more. I just want him to sometimes say, you know what, screw it. We're losing a few rounds. I'm just going to do something. I'm going to call for something because he is
You
that
just want him
good.
You just want him to have that like next level arrogance sort of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But,
Yeah, man.
But he's just like you said, he's just like every time he plays Counter Strike, the man's just smiling, bro.
I know,
I swear
man.
to God, like he just looks like he's having so much fun. It's like he's like a ballerina just dancing through CS, bro, and having the time of his fucking life. You know, like it's fun to see.
You
It's fun to
probably
see.
need that when you have Apex sat next to you, who's like, stressing out.
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time. The hand smacks on the desk. Yeah. ZywOo
All
was,
those pictures.
Yeah.
Exactly.
ZywOo was last year's, I believe he was the MVP with the highest rating. That he had an insane EPL performance, and in my opinion, I think that recovered his year to be able to achieve that second spot. I think Shearer may have, taken that spot off of him if it wasn't for such a good showing. Do you think that because now they have a stand-in here, and you say like the pressure's off, do you think he will take some of these like more outlandish plays? Do you think that's gonna help him here to achieve another great rating?
I mean, I think for
yeah.
sure, right? Like, it's not only just going to be him though. Also, I think all of them will take more risks and just have a little bit of pressure off themselves. But excited to see what he can do because at Kato, he seemed like obviously he still played really good, but it wasn't like the performance you expect from ZywOo, right? So I hope he like gets like sort of unleashed and just goes fucking nuts, bro. That'll be sick. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But also about JACKZ, he could actually pop off as well. Like there's no pressure on him, right? And JACKZ has insane aim.
Yeah.
His aim is fucking insane, man. So he could actually pop off really hard.
Yeah, you often see it with standards, though. I remember the nifty performances when he comes standing in, and yeah, just those type of players, they'll come stand in and have an insane performance. And another team who have a stand in is OG. They'll be fielding Nico, not Nico from G2, Danish Nico, as he's known across the scene. How do you think that's going to affect OG? Because they've lost their IGL not too long before this has started. So what kind of expectations do you think they're setting for themselves?
This is a tough one. I mean, it's always hard losing in IGL, right? All the tactics, everything you've been working for, like it's gonna be different with a new guy. Even though if Nico knows how they play and how they usually call, it's not gonna be the same. It could be like it's easier to do choke calls when you're new in the team, even though he's not new. Yeah, you know what I mean. He's standing in, right? He's been off the team for a while, so it could go both ways. Pretty much, like they could have a super good tournament, or they could just, I don't know, just get destroyed.
But about that, right? It's good then that you say, yeah, I think it's good though that you say that like it's hard to play without an IGL because the opponent is also playing without the IGL, right? Like
true.
I believe Seriously Nation attack should be calling there.
True.
I agree with you, Dennis, completely. I just want to say like I think OG will win the first match, but I think they will really struggle, and I think it's also how can I say, it's like a problem that Dexter came out and saying that playing AWP and IGLing is really difficult, because if that's the feeling he has, I don't expect him to deliver good performances, honestly. Like if he doesn't have the faith in himself to be able to do both, I don't see why people would expect OG to do well.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because when you actually watch OG play, I think Nexa is a pretty basic caller, honestly. Like, I feel like if you had another player who could comfortably come in and, I don't know, as long as it wasn't Dexter, basically, I feel like I'd be okay with it. But Dexter's such a big win condition on this team. I'm like, I don't want you to lose that, because he can definitely just win you maps by himself. So I don't know. It's strange. This whole OG team is kind of strange to me, because even when they had Nexa in the team, I always felt like Nexa's almost like a part-time IGL somewhat. Like, I don't feel like he really wanted to IGL. He just kind of ended up as an IGL, and he was like, okay, well, I'll do like a decent job. And he called pretty basic stuff and would just oftentimes group up early in rounds and kind of catch people out. And it was a pretty effective style. But I feel like I look at the names on this team and I don't know. I feel like maybe sometimes I'm like looking at Dexter especially and just thinking there's a few teams that could really do with an AWPer like Dexter right now. And I kind of feel like he's almost like slightly wasted on OG.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of the best stoppers, pretty much. I'd say he's insane. When he's good, when he's feeling it, he's insane, right? And I agree. I'm not very impressed by OG, even though they are rank 8 or whatever. But I believe he could go to another team and destroy teams pretty much.
I feel like the
Sure.
obvious one is Liquid, right? If he was on Liquid,
Oof.
that lineup looks kind
Yeah,
of fun.
that would be nice. Yeah, that would be an insane lineup actually. Yeah, think
Lots of
about that.
firepower.
But do you I remember what seeing, I think it was one of the ESL content pieces they put out about Nexon, not originally choosing to be the IGL and kind of being forced upon him. So I definitely think what you're saying, Alex, is correct there. It's difficult to develop yourself if you're not 100% set in the role that you've been given on the team. But could we see this as speculation for Nexa to go and find another team? He's dropped out a convenient point before the RMRs, so he's not set with OG for anything. Could he be, looking to find another spot? Could that be a chance for him to drop the IGL role and show what he really can, do without having that on him, those restraints?
Everyone is quiet for once.
Yeah.
I think
Take over, mate.
yeah, I think like no matter what, if he joins a team, it will be as IGL. I want to get that out of the way first of all. Like, I think Nexa is a good player and he's a good fragger as well. But I think also, like Aaron and Dennis, you can agree when I say that having been the IGL for some years in a row and getting out of that IGL role is really tough, because you can't stop thinking about like the macro game and like everything around your position, basically. Like I remember even back when Astralis was kind of juggling the IGL role, because then Glaive was like going away for personal reasons as well, and then blah, blah, blah. And I remember Magis was taking a role, and I think he did a good job, but it was as if like when he wasn't IGL anymore, he kind of lost that star power he used to have in a way. And I think there's not many teams who are looking at Nexa right now and thinking like, okay, this guy is going to really boost us firepower wise, even though he is actually a quite good aimer. So if he joins a team, I think it will be as IGL. If he will join a team or not, it's really difficult to say. There are a few rumors out there mentioning like some different teams. At least I've seen Navi, but to my understanding, Nexa doesn't speak like Russian. So I don't know how he would lead that team unless it would be in English. And then, it would seem like a very, I don't know, weird decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's actually hard to see. It's fun what you said last time, Dennis, that everyone is looking for an IGL, but it's almost as if there isn't any space for him, at least not in a better team than OG, is kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
The thing is,
Yeah.
like even when he first joined, like when he left G2, wasn't the reason why he wasn't in G2 was because he didn't want to be in IGL, like to begin with?
Yeah.
And then he went to OG and then just started in-game leading over there.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like I don't know. I'm not sure like what he's thinking, to be honest, like what his thought process is. But I mean, I still think he's pretty good individually. He still has that like anchor ability just to get multi kills and stuff like that, from what I see anyway. And from the past with like playing with Nexa, like I mean, this is ages ago. This is back in like 2017.
Yeah, he like stood in for you, right? I remember that.
He played for us
That's a
for
while
about
ago.
maybe 4 or 5 months or something like that. And back then, like the biggest like attribute that he had for us was that he just didn't tilt. Like, it just wasn't in his nature. But I don't know what he's like now. And I mean, he's gone through the IGL process, so I'm sure there's been some fucking slamming and shit going on.
He has
so.
played in G2, so
Yeah.
He's just been copying some fucking smashes from Nico, but yeah, I'm not sure what the process for him would be next, to be honest. Like if he wants to keep leading, or if he wants to just take a step back and actually just go back and play as an individual, like for a team or something like that. But we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah. It's quite.
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's quite hard to go from. He was a fragger before, right? Go from fragger to in-game leading and then back to fragger. It's almost impossible, to be honest. Like you lose, like when you become an in-game leader, you kind of stop thinking about yourself at all. You just think about the team, what nades, what can you do, everything. As a fragger, you have like one goal, pretty much, or entry fragger or playmake, whatever. But as in game leader, you have to think about everything, right? And it's kind of hard to go back to what you used to be. At least it was for me, like super hard. But as Nato said before, I think if Nexa is going somewhere, he's going as a game leader.
Does it almost seem like he's just kind of settling for that role? And if so, how much impact will that have? You know, someone who's fully involved in the role compared to someone who's just going to a team and settling for it, just to fill the gap.
But it's like if he accepts it, seems like he does, right? Then it should be fine. And if he doesn't tilt, then that's good as well. But yeah, no. But if he's like he's done it for such a long time, so I think he's just gonna accept it. If they need him as in-game leader, he's gonna jump at the spot, right? If it's a good team.
But I think also maybe a little bit the problem for Nexa is that when he came forward in the scene, it was like in this Man's Not Hot Imperial team, right? And there he wasn't IGL, but he was playing with people who were, who made their way through FPL, right? So people who are really good at making decisions for themselves and making plays and everything. So he could focus a lot on himself as well. And then, I mean, later when you go to a team like G2 as well, it's a team that needs an IGL, which is obvious with Hooksy, but it's not a team where you need to micromanage people, I believe. Like maybe now with Monacy a little bit more because he's younger, but someone like Nico or Hunter, you don't need to tell them like, go here, do that, do this, like they will know it themselves. So I think it's not necessarily an easier team to be IGL in, but it's a team where you can be a little bit more, as you said, Alex, like you can be a little bit more like a basic IGL that you like kind of let the game play itself out, and then you come with the mid-round course. And I think that's potentially the struggle that there is a little bit in OG is now that, that you have Neofrag, doesn't have a whole lot of experience, Fico, Flames, even Dexter, like they're all guys who actually don't have that much experience. And there, maybe you need the IGL to step up and micromanage a little bit more and take over the game and use that experience that Nexa has. And I'm not saying he's doing a bad job, but it requires more of you, I think. And
for sure,
it's much tougher than I think being IGL in a G2 where there will be many ideas from everyone.
Yeah, you can when you played with tier 1 and then you go play with like tier 2, tier 3, it's gonna be a big difference in just that aspect, right?
Yeah.
You have to micromanage people a lot more. It's almost ridiculous sometimes, the difference between a tier 1 player and yeah, definitely. And I can see that like that difference between OG and other teams. Yeah. I agree.
It's your time to vent, Dennis. If you need to get it off your chest, get it off your chest. Their opponent, Double Nation, as you mentioned, Nato, they are also without their IGL. So do we just, add up their face at Elo and whoever has the highest wins this game? Or do we actually think that OG still have the advantage based on, their last partner playing against much more higher up opponents than
I think OG is gonna crush Double Nation, to be honest. It feels like they have such good players, right? They don't need the tactics right now, but later on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The thing I always liked about Double Nation was like Taco as an in-game leader. I don't know how he'd do on a top team actually, but on this team, he would actually come up with like a lot of new things and just like he would just always do something that made the opponent feel a little uncomfortable. He'd do something like a little different from the top teams. And I felt like that's that used to be kind of the win condition for this squad. And now, yeah, you just look at the names and it's like, I don't know, even so someone like Dumao, who's probably the best player on this team, I think he's really solid, but I think he's the sort of player who's really solid in a system and he makes really good decisions. I don't see him kind of coming out and being this big, like, if they're just going to pug, I don't really see him making those sorts of plays, sadly. Although I will say the NQZ guy, he's a really young AWPer and he looks like really promising. He's quite flashy. I'm excited for NQZ because I casted him playing like his first tournament and he was already showing those signs. it was almost when I first casted Shiro, actually. It was kind of similar. You just see the occasional signs of him doing something where you're like, wow, this kid's got like that star potential. So I'm hoping maybe we get to see more from him, actually.
I haven't watched him, to be honest, so I don't know. But like,
Keep an eye
it's
out, man.
always fun to see to see a new upper and see him in top games. It's always fun.
I think a lot of people had expectations for them at the major, didn't they? They had when everyone was doing their pick'ems, ZywOo Nation seemed to be in the ones to go through and qualify in the earlier stages, and I think they
Yeah.
disappointed. I mean, at least for me, now that after the major, I look at them and I don't have that same like hope for them. I'm not looking at them going, oh, they can do it. They
Yeah.
really can upset
Yeah,
these
for
teams
sure.
here. It's tough to look at
I
them.
mean, you go back like a year ago, right? And I felt like they were the team that was like really on the up. Like they were coming up, they were playing a lot of tournaments in Europe, and they were doing really well. And the major before that, they qualified for the major. I can't remember if they made the top 16 or what it was, but they just felt like a team that was just like slowly coming up and up and up. But when you think of them now, like you were saying before, they have good players like Demao, they're experienced players like Cole, Taco, and stuff and whatnot. Like, but it's just hard to see them doing any like major damage. I don't know what's happened with the team, but it doesn't seem like they're on the same path that they were to begin with.
I think also like they did the swap between Try and NQC, right? Not so long ago, and it
Yep,
was like
yep.
it's kind of rare that you see a direct player swap, like that you see. In the same news, it's not like Try is benched. Okay, then they take in NQC and then Try joins. It was literally like a sending it. It's like a Pokemon transfer with the old like no man. But anyway, I've watched I watched some Try demos to see if he was like something special, like you mentioned, Alex, with NQC. And what I found was that he is good and he has really calm, consistent aim, but he's also like a system player, right? And I think we could maybe assume that the switch there was kind of comparable. Like one wasn't much better than the other, but they needed like a guy with a little bit more X factor in a way. And I'm curious because I've never seen Colsera as a player who is super good at creating space and stuff like this. And I'm not too familiar with Dumao, but if you say that he's also like a system player, if they lose Taco, I think that's really tough as well, because he's one of those IGLs like your Hooksies, like your Kerrigans, who call in a super selfless way and will just throw themselves in first every time. And if they lose that and this stand-in is not able to create this space in the same way, which sucks as a stand-in, I've been in that position, then like it's just, as you mentioned, like the win condition kind of disappears. Like it's so tough for them to win if they have too many passive players and they lose an IGL.
The other Brazilian team in this group is Pain Gaming, and they qualified over through Melbourne. And that was up against Imperial, I believe, in the final. I found that they're in a similar situation to the likes of ZywOo Nation. They have good pieces, but it's just them trying to find their groove. They didn't manage to make the main stage at Katowice. I think they failed to qualify through the play-ins. But do you think that they are just another team that are still trying to find their groove through this?
Yeah, that's the feeling I get with a Brazilian team, man. It's like every team I look at them and I'm like, yeah, there's some pretty good players here. Why are they getting like no good results? I don't really know. Like they've definitely got good players. I remember seeing Big Uzera and being really impressed. Zevi's like really good. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just the lack of in-game leaders. Actually, I don't even know who's calling for Pain. Does anyone know?
No idea.
I don't really have a clue.
It might be Nekis. He's the one with the experience, at least.
Yeah. Because I thought it was, when I used to cast them, I thought it was PKL, but he's not on the team anymore, is he?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it was PKL originally. Yeah. Did he got replaced by NaToSaphix, right?
It's possible.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I don't know. Was it? I think it was. I thought they brought Skulls in recently. I'm not sure.
It's hard to keep track of the Brazilian team.
That's what it feels like, right? Like Brazilian teams, they start to do some damage, and then maybe someone just gets picked up to go to another team. Like Pain was actually doing all right when they had Safe, however you want to pronounce his name, but
yeah,
they were doing all right with him, and then he got picked up by Fury, and it just seems like that's from one team to another. It just keeps on happening. Like, Like now it's happening with like Imperial and MIBR. They just picked up Yota now. Insanity comes in for MIBR. It's like they're constantly just changing players. It's like a bit all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
I think it's worth also
Holy shit.
saying about Insanity. He had a great event. So I mean, they unfortunately didn't make
Kid's
it
a
through.
beast,
But he's
Yeah.
insane, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild. But yeah, that
He's good.
Brazilian scene. It just seems that the players who have the hardest names to pronounce, or you don't know how to pronounce their names, they just keep getting picked up to the top teams. So I don't envy the casters. I don't know how you do it, Hawka, going through everything. But they play up against NIP, and I think you could have an entire episode on NIP at this point. They are always making changes. You know, no one really knows how they stand. And an interesting point for me is that Forrest said in an interview with Foreign that Rez has the potential to be the best Swedish player because he was asked like who is the most skilled individual that you've played with, and he said Rez. Do you, Dennis, having also played with him, do you think that that's true? Do you think Rez does have that potential? It's just the consistency that continues to hold him back.
Yeah, 100%. I think, is there anyone better in Sweden right now than Rez?
It's tough
I
to
mean,
say.
Brolin is a big talent,
Brolin
but-
was the one I think to
Yeah, but
compete with
he
him.
dropped off a bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Rez right now, if you don't take Crims, but Crims is a completely different player, right? He's a support player like an anchor, and Rez he's more of an entry fragger. Like he does flashy plays now. He's definitely the best player right now, and he has the potential to become even better. Before it was like he always plays first. I'm not sure how it is right now. He played some AWP and stuff, but basically I think if he plays with someone who can go first sometimes and not just him, I think he could easily become even better. I used to do that with him. Like he doesn't always have to push first and go in and die. I could do it for him, you know. But yeah, I agree with what Forrest said. He is the best Swedish player right now. I don't see anyone better. We don't have anyone else with more impact or a better player overall.
Just
You're not
hearing
gonna
that
see yourself?
sentence for you, bro.
Yeah, it's
hearing-
weird, right?
Just hearing that sentence, being like, "Fuck, who else is there in Sweden?" Man? You go back.
Yeah,
like,
when you
open a book and be like, "Fuck, there's so many players, man." Like Jesus Christ.
we have a lot of
Strange, bro.
players, but everyone kind of dropped off, right? We don't have anyone like Rez and Brollan. There's no one else. Crims. Yeah, we have
This is so
Crims. Okay.
sad.
We
I'm
have
starting to cry, Dennis. I'm starting to cry.
It's insane, right? Like a few years ago. It's insane. It's true. That's why we go international. But also we do have a lot of talent in Sweden. But we don't have any in-game leaders. We don't have there's no one to like Kerrigan, you know. We don't have anyone, so we have a lot of good players.
You got the eyeballers boys going strong
That's
now,
true,
you know.
That's true.
They're out here.
Yeah,
The
but
Blood
I
Rush,
think I think they made it through the open qualifier to the RMR, right?
yeah,
Which is-
maybe.
I think so. Yeah. Or they
Getting
lost the
somewhere.
last match. I can't remember, but I think they made it.
Yeah, like we have a few teams. We have Eyeballers, we have like Godsent, we have what else? Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Pretty
Young
much.
Ninjas, I guess.
Yeah, Young Ninjas, but like
Ninjas.
these teams, they're having a tough time. Yeah, it's NIP was the hope, but right now it's not really Swedish. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
but we have
actually-
Rez.
I want to ask about that because I know so there's been talk about Brollan. I think some people feel like Brollan was really good because of like the SG era, and some
Yeah.
people think it's because he feels really comfortable on like a Swedish team, and now that they've gone international, they feel like he's not as comfortable. So I'm actually curious what you guys think about Brollan.
Yeah, I think I can start. I guess.
Yeah.
I think that his. I think I heard something about. Yeah, he went to NIP because he wanted to talk Swedish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they went in the international again. So it's quite weird, but I think they had no options there. But I think that could definitely be a reason why he's not the Brollan that we want to see. But he still has the potential, and he's still good and young, all that. But But yeah, I agree. I think it's the language barrier that kind of creates makes him play bad,
They're the
worse
king
than
of
he should.
Unfortunate statements, aren't they? NIP. It's Brollan saying, I want to speak Swedish, and then they go international, and then Alexi B came out saying, we'll do really well if we don't have to swap out any players, and then Hampus goes on personal leave. They can't seem to catch a break, this team.
I played with Brollan back when he was like 15, like just 15. I played in a team with him. Yeah, it was before he was anything, let's say. Like there are some players where you play with them and you just know immediately that these guys are going to be among the best in the world. And Brollan was definitely for me one of those. Like the same with someone like Stown. It's those guys where they are so young, but they can aim and they can they can't really maybe necessarily IGL, but they can come up with plans and like take control in rounds, and they can play clutches, they can entry, they can use utility. There's like a full package of a player, and he's like 14, 15 years old. And that's why someone like Brollan, I don't think he will drop off. It's the same with someone like Frozen. Like they might be playing bad for a while, but these super talents, I've never seen them not be among the best, for years. So I think it could be the language barrier. I think I played with him in English, and he was very young, and I think he did a really good job. But I think it's also worth taking into consideration that in Fnatic, where he played before, he was kind of like the star player, I would say. And then when you join a new team and Rez is like the star player, the best player, you will just automatically you won't necessarily play worse, but you will have worse stats, because it's rare that a hierarchy in a team changes without changing players. It's at least what I find. Like you don't see Simple all of a sudden dropping down and then being like the third guy on the team, or I don't know, even like the rifling guys, you don't see Nico all of a sudden being like the third best player on G2, right? Like the guys who are the best on the team, they stay the best. And it's because you build the game plan around them, and then the individual form might change a little bit, but the hierarchy will never. That's at least a little bit how I see it. Also, real quick to note, I found an HTV article saying that PKL stepped down as IGL. Nekis came in, but Bigisera, or whatever his name is, took over the IGL duties. And that was 21 days ago. So I think we can assume that. Yeah.
Unless they've changed it in 21 days.
You never know.
That'd be impressive. Oh, man. I quickly want to talk about Headtrick as well, because he's an interesting player. I don't know if I've seen him. I think he's solid with the AWP, but weirdly, some of the best maps I've seen from Headtrick on NIP have been when he's just rifling, like when he's playing Inferno maps and he's just fully rifling. And I'm pretty sure I think I'm right in saying I think he was more of a rifler before joining NIP. I didn't really watch much of the Na'Vi Junior after m0NESY went, to be honest, but it's kind of a weird spot. Like I think he can be a pretty good AWPer, but I actually almost feel like he might have a bit more potential as a rifler. So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing how he progresses as a player, because he kind of has to be the AWPer right now, but maybe in the future there's potential for him to become a rifler. I think he's actually really solid at both.
Sure, Nip don't want to go back down that path of trying to find another
I know, yeah.
Do you think that m0NESY's almost set like an unrealistic expectation of what Headtrick has to live up to? Because you don't get players like m0NESY come up, like you just don't. They're almost like prodigies of the game. So
freaking nature, bro.
Yeah, do you think that's that's not helpful for Headtrick?
I don't think that it doesn't matter really. I don't think he feels the pressure. He's still delivering. He's not been that bad, right? He had some good games, and I think he could be good. But as you said as well, I don't know about the AWP. Like, is he? Perhaps he's good at both, and we haven't seen the full potential probably with the AWP. So there's more to see.
He looks okay with the AWP. It's just it's just weird that some of his best maps, like for sure, I feel like have been when he's just rifling. But there's still a lot of time to grow. Like he's so new.
Yeah, it could be that it's actually a bit easier to play like rifles instead of AWP when you're playing your first tournaments and stuff. Because that's my opinion. Sometimes it's the other way around. It's easier to play AWP, and but it could have been one of those moments.
I think also like he had a kind of meteoric rise, right? I feel like let's say 4 months before NIP picked him up, like people were aware he existed, but he wasn't. I never heard people talk about him as being the next big thing, you know. And then I think after Monesi left, I guess he kind of swapped to AWP, is my understanding of it.
I think so.
Maybe even a little bit after, actually. I think I'm not quite sure, but
Yeah.
But then he had like really good HLTV stats. I think he had like 1.35 with 20 maps last 3 months or something like this. And then NIP picked him up. But that's also one of those where, you know, it's not like he's been amazing for a really long time that you can assume this is like his base level. You know, I thought it was an interesting pickup because it's high risk, high reward. I don't think necessarily you're getting a player where you should expect anything like Monesi level performances. There's basically no players where you should, but more as in like, I don't even think we should expect him to be a solid player for NIP moving forward. I think he will have to still have a lot of time to grow. And I don't know if a team like NIP should be taking those kind of risks currently.
No, they should not. It's fun that you say this because it feels like NIP, they have gambled a lot with other players and it has not worked out well. And it feels like I'm watching Headtrick's events here. It feels like a bit of a gamble if you watch the stats. It's not a lot of games or tournaments. It's quite a few. It's not a lot, so it's
No.
definitely be a huge gamble for NIP. And yeah, high risk, high reward, but also I like when you do research on a player and you actually pick someone with potential and then you call them a talent. This is a gamble. Definitely. Yeah, I don't like gambles, like not for a team like NIP, right? Because they've been struggling and they've changed players. They have done this before, like picking a talent and it doesn't work. They change a lot of players from the young ninjas, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and they went through
I don't know.
LNC, didn't they? And then
Yeah.
CTR.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they have done it
yeah.
and they just keep doing it.
It seems like
I don't understand.
they've expended all of their resources throughout Sweden. You know, they've gone through like some
Yeah.
York and
But this
Japan,
config guy, he's pretty consistent, right? Like nothing could go wrong there, right?
For me with the lineup right now, like when I look at the lineup, like I don't even think about Hedrick too much. I think about like, I'm just looking at it right now. You got Config, Rez, and Alexi B. Alexi B wasn't given enough space in G2, it felt like, so that's why he felt more comfortable coming into NIP. And now you got Config, Rez, and Alexi B that all three are trying to take space on the map, and like it just feels like there's just so many role clashes for me. I'm not sure like what they feel or what the, like obviously we don't know the innings of the team, but it just looks like there's just like one too many like star players or people taking space on the map that they can't get the full roles going in the team, to be honest. So
even when Brolan was at his best, he kind of played like that too. Like certainly on CT side, I remember he would just take space like crazy. So yeah, that is kind of wild.
It's just like, I don't know. It just seems like you've just gotten some good players and put them in a team sort of thing, but I don't know. It remains to be seen, I guess. So yeah.
There's so much you can say on NIP, isn't there? And it's just, yeah, it's such a mess of a team currently. Like you don't know who's doing what. I remember when the S tag he got benched. I remember thinking that, well, as much as I love Hampus as a player, and I think he adds a lot of maturity to this team, even though he's not currently playing, I thought really like it should have been him to have gone and S-Tag to stay. I just think that S-Tag plays the role that they needed a lot better than Hampus could.
Exactly,
And like you're saying, Aaron, it's the clash of roles. Hampus was having incredible performances. He dropped off a little bit towards the end of last year, but prior to that, he was usually up there as one of their top players. So it's a lot of role clashes, like you say.
Yeah. To me, it just it's a weird mix, to be honest.
Yeah, it could be that it's gonna impact players like Brolan because of that. Because Config, he's a player that takes space. Rest, he takes space as well, but he's more of like he doesn't necessarily need space, right? He can play whatever. But like a player like Config, he takes. I love Config. I think he's a great player. But it could impact Brolan. Because perhaps Config makes the plays that Brolan wants to do but can't because config does the plays, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. Perhaps I haven't played with config for a long time, so perhaps he gives more space nowadays. But when you watch him, when I see config's names, I see like an entry frag playmaker guy, right?
Exactly,
So,
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just think of the spearhead. Or what do they
Yeah.
call them? The spearmen, or like just fucking
spearmen,
running and
yeah.
going. Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
You just think
Yeah.
of just that aggressive like entry frag, but yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
and that
also,
was
like, oh yeah, sorry.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, you
Okay,
go,
yeah,
you go.
that was Brolan before, right? With
Yeah.
in the SG era, or before when he came up, he was that guy. He went through a smoke, he pushed, he did whatever. Also with Dress, he did that as well. Like they flash him in, he goes in, pops 2 headshots, and it's over. So they have 3 of those. They have head trick that, well, yeah, we have to see if he's an opera, okay, and Alexib. So 3 players that basically plays the same, right? But it feels like Brolan, he's more of an lurker now, kinda. He's not
Yeah.
like in the front. He's somewhere in the middle somewhere. I don't know.
I don't know if they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
tough.
I think they're not happy, like with all the player swaps and stuff. So let's hope for a good game, because it has not looked good so far.
Just on that
Mm.
point
A good
briefly,
tournament, I mean.
if you're saying them not being happy with all the role slots, the one thing that they said on through the podcast, not the podcast, sorry, the blogs that they were doing, Alexi B said he's never been smiling this much whilst losing, and that's because of config. It's a bit of a weird thing to say, but I mean, is that not a good sign for them, that at least the morale in the group isn't completely dead?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if they're losing and smiling, it's always good signs, right? Because when they start winning, it'll just be that much better. So it sounds like the mental's good. Hopefully that can relate to the game also.
Yeah, I think config is also the kind of player that takes a lot of space in real life, not just in game. Like he's you can hear him. He's not the quiet guy in the corner, right? He's you see him.
Definitely
That's how
not.
it is.
Yeah.
And I think NIP needs that, because I don't see anyone else doing that in that team.
Mm.
No.
So
So
he's almost giving them some energy, giving them the life.
yeah, energy.
Yeah.
They
Resuscitating them and
Totally. To be fair, I think config was pretty bad at Katowice, but like watching the games, you could tell it's like this just isn't the config I'm used to seeing, because his aim was just like not good at some points, which I've never seen from config. So I'm actually I think they'll be okay here. I think config should be way better, and like they just have too much firepower based on this group. I think they should be fine, but yeah, I don't know, long term, like based on what you want from NIP, I guess is more where we're looking at this from. Because even who they lost to at Katowice, they lost against Outsiders and Vitality to get knocked out. You can't really complain about that, to be honest.
both teams made the playoffs, right? So
I have a funny story to share about config. Obviously nothing to paint him in a bad light, but just to add on to what you guys said. When I was standing in for Complexity the first time, config was on the team, and this is an example of losing with a smile, So we are playing Nuke against Navi, right? And it's not the most fun team to play like in 2020, because like they were pretty good. And I don't know if we had just lost the first map, or maybe it was the first map, but at least we go into this match and thinking like we might have a chance. And I think even we're talking about, it doesn't matter. Anyway, we go into the match and config is doing his thing. He's trying to create space everywhere and just take duels, because he is so crazy good at that. But unluckily for him, he ends up with a score of 0-0-15 on a half. Or maybe he had an assist, I'm not sure, but 0-15 or 0-14 or something like this. And then there's just like quiet, and we all like think that it sucks, in this halftime. And then all of a sudden you can just hear config like out of nowhere, he just starts yelling like, oh! He's just like trying to hype himself up, like he needs to come back, So he's just the guy has 0 kills in a half, died 14 times, like had 0 impact basically, and then you just hear like a war cry out of nothing. And then I know so many people who would like go into themselves and be like super insecure and be like, fuck man, I'm losing the game, like what am I doing? Nothing is working and stuff like that. And this guy, he was just like full crazy, you know, and then you just know like, okay, we have a chance still, like the beast is still
it's
awake.
good mental, man. It's good mental.
Yeah.
Completely, it was insane mental.
Yeah.
Like I think this
Yeah.
guy, you cannot do anything to break him, but I think this is what like he means, that no matter how, I mean, this guy, I think he does tilt, but he never shows it, and he makes a lot of jokes. You know, he's just laughing at what other people say, and just even when he has like the worst map of his career, he's like sitting there and psyching himself up so that everyone is just like, I don't know, believing in it again. I just thought, like, I will never forget this one match. Like, it was so crazy.
Yeah, but I think that's what they need, right? I really
Yeah.
think that's what they need in this lineup. And yeah, that's good. He's a good piece.
Yeah.
Seems like quite a lot of
Insane,
their players are quite reserved, you know, quite quiet. So maybe config, I could definitely use that in my FaZe games when I'm going 0-15. I could use a
100%.
config. I might need him to come in and help me out.
Yeah. But he might be the like odd one out as well. Like I think he's a guy that a lot of people like to just hang out with and stuff because he's funny and like doing stupid shit all the time, like outside the game. But he might be like the odd one out. Like there's, as you mentioned, so many quiet people. I think Riz is pretty quiet, LXB is pretty quiet, Brolin is pretty quiet, and I don't know too much about Hetrick, but I don't imagine he has like the most I don't know, active personality either. So yeah, he might find himself to be a little bit alone, maybe. I
Yeah,
hope not.
he's definitely gonna be the center guy. He's gonna be in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
But I think he and Res from, because I know Res, they're gonna click.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That's
Yeah. So yeah.
It just seems as well that every time that they seem to have one of these issues in the team, they have to get another Dane in. They can't get away from it. You know, they had Stag come in and now config. Maybe next it'll be NaToSaphix. Who knows?
Probably not. Let's be real. I'd love for that to be the case, but let's be real. But I appreciate you. I
know, like I say, NIP, we could have an entire episode on this team. So I don't want to continue on. Another team that has a Dane in there, a very decorated Dane at this point, FaZe. And I find them hard to place now. Last year they were so dominant, and because they were so strong, even like a 4th or 3rd place or a 2nd place at the end of last year was kind of like, really, come on, you guys should be winning this event. And I don't know how to feel about them into this year. They did fail to make playoffs at Katowice, but it was a very close game against Liquid. Do you think there's any fear that they won't here? It's a very forgiving tournament.
I mean, them coming into this group, I feel like they'll just thrash it out of the park, to be honest, especially with all the other teams having stand-ins and stuff like that. So I don't think they'll have any threat at all not to come first in their group. So yeah, not at all. There's nothing else to say. I just think they're just so much more superior than the other teams.
Yeah, I think they're fine. Even at Kato, like they played that series against G2, and even though they lost 2-0, that nuke game was crazy close. It was 16-14, and that's with G2 winning some honestly just bullshit G2 rounds that they somehow seem to pull out every time. And they're still playing G2 super close. Then they decided not to go for Inferno this time. They decided to pick the Ancient to try and switch it up. And they did get smashed. But when they have played G2 on Inferno, those games have also been really close. I actually think the only difference I see from FaZe is they're just not quite as clutch as they used to be. And it's almost like that's what the team needs, because when they were dominant, they just always came through in those big moments. So I think FaZe are fine. I don't really have any problems right now with the team. I think there's absolutely no way you're even thinking about making a change. You definitely see it through to the major. And I think they'll do pretty well, even at this tournament and going forward. I still think, for me, they're probably like definitely a top 5 team. Probably still, they might still be a top 3 team for me in my head, honestly. Like, I still think they're really solid. I just feel like they just need to get Rain back in the lineup and get the practice going again. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I agree. They're definitely fine. They're for me as well. They're top 3. I even think they could go to the final in this one. It's just FaZe. Like, they deliver all the time. yeah, they had some like a bad tournament last year, right? I don't remember which one. Yeah, after the major, right? They just
They went
major.
0-3 at the
Yeah.
major, didn't they?
It was
And-
at the major,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, true. But yeah, I think they're fine. They always deliver. No worries.
Yeah. I think one thing that I would bring up here as well is that it seems like FaZe were like doing super well. And now, already many events ago, we were like, oh, now they have 9 events to get the Grand Slam. And then it became like
Yeah.
8 and 7 and 6. And I think now we're down to 3. And I think
Yeah.
the pressure
I
of
reckon
the
they're
Grand
crumbling a little
Slam.
bit,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think maybe the pressure of the Grand Slam is getting to them a little bit because
Mm.
even though these are like some of the, at least some of them, super decorated players, right? The Grand Slam has only been achieved, 2 times, right? So
I think 3.
is it 3? I
Yeah,
can only
think
come up
Astralis,
with
Navi,
Liquid and
Liquid,
Astralis.
or I think
Yeah,
Navi got it as
Navi,
well.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
That could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, it's like there's only one player, obviously, on this team who has achieved it in Twists, and I'm just thinking that this is, it was a big hurdle for Kerrigan to get that major trophy, right? But the last trophy he needs to say he's won it all, basically, is the Grand Slam. And I think, yeah, the further we get here, the more pressure starts to build, because they had the event win so early in their Grand Slam like cycle that if they don't make it before these 3 events, they're starting to lose the titles, if you know what I mean. Like, and then they have to play catch up all the time. So they probably know like these next 3 events, they are key. If they want this Grand Slam, it has to happen now. They don't have a better opportunity, and I think I get the feeling that's maybe why they're not performing up to the usual standard. But I'm really hoping that they manage to get it because they all deserve it.
Yeah. Also, Rain just became my father, right? It was
Yeah.
not too long ago, so. Yeah, but yeah, I never even thought of the Grand Slam, but yeah, that could definitely be a reason.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
believe they're 1 event away.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
so.
it's
Yeah,
one of
they
them.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah, they have
seems
3 more chances, like you said. Yeah.
it
I
seems
think
like
so, something like
everything
this.
happened for
Yeah.
them, didn't it? After they won those events at the start of last year, Carrigan went and got married, and now you've got Rain who's
Yeah.
just had his child. It seems
Yeah.
like it's like they need that consistency back in this team. But yeah, that's a fair point of, are they crumbling under the pressure of yet another major achievement in Counter-Strike? Not many teams have done it. And Twist has been, once again, another consistent performer. So maybe that pressure isn't getting to him as much as some of the other players in that team. It's a very interesting point to look at. And they play against Rooster. I doubt many people would have heard of this team. There's not gonna be much to say about them. Are we just gonna assume that if they do, when they lose the FaZe, I don't think it should be if they, it should be a when, that they then also will lose to Pain or NIP.
Yeah.
Safe to assume.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there's not really much you can say. I mean, even being from the region, I don't know about them that much myself, to be honest. Like, I just know a couple of the guys in the team are pretty sharp, and that's about it. So, I think for them, coming to this tournament is going to be good learning experience for them, being able to play against some elite opposition. So it's going to be massive for them, to be honest. Not many people from Australia get the chance to do it. So, but other than that, it's going to be hard for them for sure. It's going to be real hard versing FaZe off the bat.
It's a great opportunity that we are able to give 2 teams from that region the chance to play. When you only have 3 teams that fight it out to gain 2 placements, it does become a bit is it worth this team being here? It's a shame, but it's great for the experience, like you say. It will be good for them. It just is that experience going to be them getting absolutely battered by FaZe in the first round.
Probably.
I mean, yeah, it's probably going to be an absolute walkover, to be honest. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's FaZe versus a team that hasn't played overseas at all, so there's not really much else you can say. Yeah.
It's a good time for anyone who plays fantasy to chuck Carrigan in your team, because he probably will get a decently high rating in that match. So yeah. But I mean, that is Group C. I personally think it's quite top heavy in terms of the teams here. But I want to ask you guys, who do you think the 4 are that are going to go through? But yeah, it seems quite clear cut, I think.
So FaZe, obviously. Roos, I would say Vitality, probably in second, I guess.
Even with the stand-in, yeah.
Even with the stand-in, and then it starts already gets a little bit hard, to be honest.
I would hope
should be
NIP.
fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
would
hope
yeah.
NIP and OG,
We
I
hope.
guess, but I'm obviously hoping for the Grayhound boys too to finally deliver something pretty decent for Aussie Counter-Strike. But
Yeah.
I feel like if anyone's gonna do it, it would
Yeah.
be Greyhound, honestly.
I feel so.
yeah,
But like, it's just I feel like they're gonna get close, and then the pressure's just gonna get to them. That's actually what I think is gonna happen if they play against OG.
In Group A, myself and Aaron were both hoping for IHC. Yumi pulled us up on the copium, and yeah, they went out last in that group. So I think we'll try not to hope too much, but it'd be great to see a team like Greyhound qualify, to get to that
Yeah,
playoff stage.
I agree.
Be very good.
Hey, and let me get the record straight. IHC did beat EG. Come on now, come on. They didn't go out
Oh, okay.
last.
So I was not last.
yeah.
Sorry,
and you saw the response from Annihilation.
Oh yes, no, I remember this now. So EG at this point are becoming so
What is
forgettable.
You don't even count them as a
No,
team anymore.
no.
Yet.
I was like, EG, who are they? Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, EG. What was it? Annihilation said he was like, yeah, it's just EG though.
It's just
Yeah.
Like,
It's just EG.
Yeah.
They just had this like little laugh, and
Yeah.
you just feel the burn.
Yeah, it's it's bad when players from regions that aren't considered contenders to have that opinion on you. It's Oh, EG, poor EG. Yeah, that's gonna wrap up our Group C. Like, subscribe, check out us on our previous videos. We got some short form content that's coming up soon with these guys, and we'll catch you for Group D. So we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.